Germany had mobilized 4,200,000 men of the Heer, 1 million of the Luftwaffe, 180,000 of the Kriegsmarine and 100,000 of the Waffen-SS. When consideration is made for those in Poland, Denmark, and Norway, the army had 3 million men available for the offensive starting on May 10, 1940. These manpower reserves were formed into 157 divisions. Of these, 135 were earmarked for the offensive, including 42 reserve divisions. The German forces in the West in May and June deployed some 2,439 tanks and 7,378 guns. The German army was far from motorized. 10% of their army was motorized in 1940 and could muster only 120,000 vehicles. Compared with the 300,000 of the French army, all of the British Expeditionary Force was motorized. Most of the German logistical transport consisted of horse-drawn vehicles. In 1939 to 40, 45% of the army was at least 40 years old and 50% of all the soldiers had just a few weeks training. Only 50% of the German divisions available in 1940 were fit for operations, often being worse equipped than the German army of 1914 or their equivalents in the British and French armies. In the spring of 1940, the German army was semi-modern. A small number of the best-equipped and elite divisions were offset by many second- and third-rate divisions. Army Group A, commanded by Gerd von Rundstedt, comprised 45 divisions, including 7 Panzer, and was to execute the main movement effort through the Allied defenses in the Ardennes. The maneuver carried out by the Germans is sometimes referred to as a Sichelschnitt, the German translation of the phrase sickle cut, coined by Winston Churchill after the event. It involved 3 armies and had 3 Panzer Corps. The 15th had been allocated to the 4th Army, but the Reinhardt and the Guderian were united with the 14th Army Corps of 2 motorized infantry divisions on a special independent operational level in Panzergruppe Kleist. To the east, Army Group C was to help Army Group A to encircle and capture the French forces on the Maginot Line. The goal of the operation was to envelop the Metz region with its fortifications, to prevent a French counteroffensive from the Alsace region against the German line on the Somme. Guderian was to advance to the French border with Switzerland and trap the French forces in the Vosges Mountains, while the 16th Corps attacked the Maginot Line from the west into its vulnerable rear to take the cities of Verdun, Toul and Metz. The French had moved the 2nd Army Group from Alsace and Lorraine to the Quevegon Line on the Somme. After Army Group B had begun its offensive against Paris and into Normandy, Army Group A began its advance into the rear of the Maginot Line. On June 15th, Army Group C launched Operation Tiger, a frontal assault across the Rhine and into France. The French 104th Division and 105th Division were forced back into the Vosges Mountains on the 17th of June. On the same day, 19th Corps reached the Swiss border, cutting off the Maginot defenses from the rest of France. Most units surrendered on the 25th of June, and the Germans claimed to have taken 500,000 prisoners. Some main fortresses continued the fight, despite appeals for surrender. The last only capitulated on the 10th of July, after a request from Georges and only then under protest. Of the 58 main fortifications on the Maginot Line, 10 were captured by the Wehrmacht. The evacuation of the 2nd BEF took place during Operation Ariel between the 15th and the 25th of June. German army, with air supremacy, was determined to prevent more Allied evacuations after the Dunkirk debacle. On the 9th and the 10th of June, the port of Cherbourg was subject to 15 long tons of German bombs. while Le Havre received 10 bombing attacks that sank 2,949 GRT of Allied shipping. On the 17th of June, he sank a 10,000-ton ship, the 16,243 GRT liner RMS Lancastria off Street Nazaire, killing about 4,000 Allied troops and civilians. This was nearly double the British killed in the Battle of France. Yet the Luftwaffe failed to prevent the evacuation of 190,000 to 200,000 Allied personnel.
Eine Rundfunkansprache an das französische Volk erklärt, dass Frankreich nunmehr die Waffen niederlegen müsse. Der Führer wird den königlich italienischen Ministerpräsidenten Benito Mussolini zu einer
Rhino, discouraged by his cabinet's hostile reaction to a British proposal for a Franco-British union to avoid defeat and believing that his ministers no longer supported him, Rhino resigned on the 16th of June. He was succeeded by Pétain, who delivered a radio address to the French people announcing his intention to ask for an armistice with Germany. When Hitler received word from the French government that they wished to negotiate an armistice, he selected the forest of Compiègne as the site for the negotiations. France was divided into a German occupation zone in the north and west and a free zone in the south. Both zones were nominally under the sovereignty of the French rump state headed by Pétain that replaced the Third Republic. This rump state is often referred to as Vichy France. De Gaulle, who had been made an Under-Secretary of National Defense by Rhino in London at the time of the armistice, refused to recognize Pétain's Vichy government as legitimate. He delivered the appeal of the 18th of June, the beginning of Free France. The occupation of the various French zones continued until November 1942, when the Allies began Operation Torch, the invasion of Western North Africa. To safeguard southern France, the Germans enacted Case Anton and occupied Vichy France. The Free French Provisional Government declared the re-establishment of a provisional French Republic to ensure continuity with the defunct Third Republic. It set about raising new troops to participate in the advance to the Rhine and the Western Allied invasion of Germany by using the French forces of the interior as military cadres and manpower pools of experienced fighters to allow a very large and rapid expansion of the French Liberation Army. It was well equipped and well supplied despite the economic disruption brought by the occupation thanks to Lend-Lease, and grew from 500,000 men in the summer of 1944 to over 1,300,000 by VE Day, making it the fourth largest Allied army in Europe. By the end of the war, some 580,000 French citizens had died. 40,000 of these were killed by the Western Allied forces during the bombardments of the first 48 hours of Operation Overlord. Military deaths were 55,000 to 60,000 in 1939 to 40. Prisoners of war and deportee totals were around 1,900,000. Of these, around 240,000 died in captivity.